Hello and welcome to Positive Behavior Support Strategies at Home. I am Cheri Sinnott Springer from the Illinois Service Resource Center, and we will be discussing a variety of strategies that you will be able to use at home with your child who is deaf or hard of hearing. So when we think about behavior, we know that problem behavior is one of the main reasons why individuals have challenges at school, at home, in recreational activities, out in the community, at work. So individuals can be successful with the content, they can be successful with understanding the material at school, how to do their jobs. But if their behavior and social skills is not sufficient, they will have challenges getting along with people, and this is a barrier to their success. So when we think about behavior at home, we think about this in a similar way to the behavior expectations that many students have at school. And many schools in Illinois are establishing school-wide and classroom-wide behavior expectations to be respectful, be responsible, and be safe. And we can think about these behavior expectations at home as well, and think about what does it look like in your home for your child to be respectful? Are you looking for kind words? Are you looking for your child to have their hands and feet to themselves? What does it look like to be responsible? Are you looking for your child to pick up their toys, clear their plate after dinner, hang up their backpack when they arrive home? And then, of course, what is it to be safe? Does this mean you want your child to hold hands in a parking lot? Does it mean that you want your child to keep their hands to themselves? This is something that could fall under the umbrella of respectful or safe, depending on how challenging the behavior is. And once you establish these expectations, it can be helpful to have a visual support for your child that kind of outlines, these are our expectations. So the chart you're looking at right now has some examples for responsible of picking up your toys or hanging up your coat. The examples for respectful are use kind words or keep your hands to yourself. And the examples for safety are wash your hands and keep the floor clean. And this was created before COVID, but in the last year and a half, washing your hands has become even more important in terms of safety. Another thing we want to keep in mind is to say the behavior you want to see versus the behavior you do not want to see. And the example of that is, suppose you don't want someone to wear shoes in your home, okay? What is a way to say that positively? I've asked many parents that question, and sometimes a parent will say, well, I would say, please don't wear shoes into my home, okay? You are still saying the behavior you don't want. What you do want is for the person to either take off their shoes before they enter or leave their shoes at the door. Okay, so now you're telling the person what you want them to do. And with children, there's such a temptation to say, stop hitting your sister. Don't leave your garbage on the floor. We say, stop it, quit it, don't do that. We want to keep in mind, say the behavior that we want. Okay? So in the example of don't hit your sister, behavior is nice hands or keep your hands to yourself. The example of throwing garbage on the floor, instead of don't throw garbage on the floor, we could say be responsible, put your garbage in the trash can. Okay, so that incorporates the overall behavior expectations, the language from that, along with saying the behavior that you want. So you can kind of double up on both of those. So it's certainly easy to say to do this, but typically when things are going well, we don't think of saying anything. If everything's fine, we don't remember to say something. Okay? It's only when something's wrong that we are prompted to make a correction. And we call this the dirty underwear phenomenon. If you walk into the bathroom and there's dirty underwear on the floor, we might say, how many times have I told you to pick up your dirty underwear? Or even if we use the language we're talking about, please be responsible, put your dirty underwear in the laundry basket. But if we walk into the bathroom and the floor is clean, there's no trigger to remind us to give positive feedback and say, wow, the floor is clean. Thank you for being responsible. Okay, so we want to remember to use the language for both behavior praise and behavior correction. Okay, so we're using the language, thank you for being respectful or responsible or safe. So behavior praise as well as behavior correction. All right, so we're going to look at a list, and whoever you are with right now, think together about these behaviors and think about the behavior that you want to see. Okay, so here are some examples, and we are doing this as a webinar, so it's not really interactive right now, but you can just take a few minutes for yourself and think about this. If you don't want your child to be up too late, what is it that you do want? You want your child to be up on time. If the child is going to bed too late and they're postponing and they're chatting or they're kind of dragging their feet, we want them to be responsible and get to bed at bedtime. Backtalk, disrespect to parents. This is an opportunity to use that language. Please use respectful language instead of, hey, don't talk to me like that, which is our natural inclination. Horseplay, kind of rough housing. Some of this is natural and we're not always going to intervene, but if it gets a little too aggressive, we might use the language of, let's be safe, let's be responsible, pay attention to your surroundings, hands to self. And similarly with kicking or hitting, any type of aggression. Again, remember, please be respectful, please be safe. We want to continue to use that language and say the behavior we want. Okay, a few more examples here. Stop throwing your coat on the floor. Please hang up your coat. Don't hit your sister, hands to yourself. Quit that yelling. Please be respectful, use your inside voice. Stop making a mess. Let's be responsible, clean up after ourselves. Stop playing video games. Could be, let's be responsible and start doing our homework. Okay, so just practice using that language. All right, let's talk a little bit about ratio of positive to negative statements. There is a lot of research that tells us that we want to have a ratio of at least 4 positive to each negative interaction. And this could be parent to child, it could be teacher to student, and in order to maintain the best possible relationship, each time there's a negative correction, we want to be aware of having at least 4 praise. So for each behavior correction, we want to be able to have at least 4 behavior praise interactions. Now, a lot of parents can find this challenging. They might say, oh my gosh, my child is doing so many negative behaviors all the time. It's challenging to find enough positive things to say. Not everybody, just some parents. So what can we look for that's positive? You find a kind thing that they do. You find anything they do that is respectful. Because when we pay attention to it, it increases it. So even if you have to search and find just a small thing, find a way to praise it so that you have this ratio of 4 positive behavior praise to each negative behavior correction. All right, let's talk a little bit about offering choices. Okay. There's a lot of benefits to letting children be in charge of making choices for some things because, first of all, it gives them a sense of control over the environment. And second of all, it gives them an opportunity to practice making good choices. Now, when we think about choices, it's not a choice to do it or not to do it. It's a choice of how to do it. So for example, perhaps it's time to go upstairs to bed. The choice is not, would you like to go upstairs to bed now, or would you like to go up later? Okay, because it's happening. It's time to go upstairs. The choice perhaps is, it's time to go upstairs. Would you like to walk up the stairs or have a piggyback ride upstairs? So it's still resulting in the same event, but they have a choice. Okay? It's time to brush your teeth. Would you like to use the pink toothpaste or the blue toothpaste? Okay? So the toothbrushing is happening, but there's an element of choice in there. Now, we also want to make sure it's a true choice and not a punishment disguised as a choice. Okay, so in school, for example, a non-choice might be, would you like to do your homework now or skip recess and do it later? Right? That's a punishment disguised as a choice. Okay. Would you like to make your bed? That's not a choice. They're going to make their bed. Do you want to put your coat on? Not a choice, because what if they say no? Okay. So putting on your coat, would you like me to put your coat on for you? Or would you like me to put it on the floor so you could put your hands in and pick it up over your head and put it on yourself? Okay, that is a choice. So yeah, a lot of times, do you want to brush your teeth or get a spanking? Right? Not a choice. It's a punishment disguised as a choice. All right, so a little bit more on choices, some more examples of not an equal choice, right? If we say clean up your toys or a timeout, not a choice. Cooperate or spanking, homework now or get grounded. So some equal choices is your drink for dinner. Would you like milk or juice? It's time to put on your pajamas. Would you like the pink pajamas or the purple pajamas? So just a little bit more on making equal choices. All right, so a little bit of true false. See if you can't think to yourself what the answer is. Do you want to make your bed or have no dessert? Okay, that one is false. That is a punishment disguised as a choice. Do you want to walk up the stairs or have a piggyback ride up the stairs? We already used that example. It is a choice. Do you want to use a pen or a pencil to do your homework? That is a choice. Do you want to do your homework or go to your room? Not an equal choice. Do you want to brush your teeth or get a spanking? Again, a punishment disguised as a choice. Here are some examples that you can think about on your own a little bit later. What are some equal choices you might come up with when it's time for hair brushing or teeth brushing? Maybe you're in the grocery store, time for homework, meals, free time. If you think about these things ahead of time, then during the real-time situation, you are prepared with some ideas. So take some time to think about what are some choices you might offer in these various situations. All right, so the next thing we will talk about is empathy statements. Okay. So many people kind of wonder, what is the difference between empathy and sympathy? Empathy or sympathy, okay? So empathy is, I understand how you feel. Okay? I understand. It doesn't mean I agree with it, but I understand what's going on with you right now. Sympathy is, I feel sorry for you. I feel bad for you. You poor thing. And this becomes an important communication skill and can actually be a prevention tool in terms of problem behaviors. And it also encourages self-monitoring of emotions in children because you are giving them the language. You are helping them identify, oh, what is the label for this thing I am feeling? And so the very basic structure is just, oh, you feel blank because blank. Okay. Now you don't have to be correct. It's okay to be wrong. If your child has sufficient language to be able to correct you, then you are helping the child clarify how they feel. So it's okay to be wrong. Okay. And the skill is to recognize in your child what's going on with them. So your child is acting up and having a behavior. You might say, you feel angry because I said you are not able to have a cookie before dinner. Okay. Whereas another response might be, stop having a temper tantrum right now. I told you no cookie. Okay. So the difference becomes, I understand you're feeling frustrated and upset right now because I said no cookie. Okay, so it's recognizing and validating the emotion that you see being expressed by the child. So let's practice. Heather throws her spoon on the floor. What might be going on with her? Okay. Heather, you feel angry because your brother laughed at you. Erin is smiling after karate lessons. Oh, we can use this communication tool for positive emotions too. This is not just something for negative emotions, right? We want to reinforce when we see positive emotions. This is to help develop the self-awareness of emotions in our children. So we want to help them recognize the positive emotions as well. So Erin is smiling. So Erin, you feel proud because you did a good job in your karate lesson today. Okay. Mike's face turns red. Mike, you feel embarrassed because you dropped your pencil and everybody noticed. Okay. Dave rolls his eyes. What could this one be? Dave, you feel embarrassed because your mom said something you didn't like. Tracy is pulling on her eyelashes. Okay, this is an indication of anxiety sometimes, right? Tracy, looks like you feel nervous because you have a test tomorrow. Cindy is walking very slowly. Okay, what could this be? Cindy, do you feel sad because you got a bad grade on your test? Paula yells at her brother. Paula, you feel angry because your brother got a bigger piece of pie, right? Who knows? Who knows what it is, right? But these are just some examples. You observe the behavior, and the behavior is what indicates the emotion. And we give that feedback. We let the child know, when I see this behavior, it's telling me that you are having this kind of emotion. That's how I know you're feeling this way. And so the benefits of communication is that it has a strong impact on your relationship. It's definitely a part of respecting each other. It helps build a sense of trust, and it also helps have opportunities to share experiences. And your child also has a sense that you understand how I feel, right? What do kids say often? You don't get it, you don't understand. This helps them have that sense that we do understand. We do understand what's going on with them. And ideally, it encourages them to share more with us because they do have that sense that we understand. Okay, so when there are some behaviors that we want to kind of counteract, here are a few ways to respond. Say you've got a child whose behaviors, the intensity is just increasing, the voice volume is going up, the body language is just becoming more intense. We want to respond with opposite intensity. The more they go up, the more we go down. The louder they get, the quieter we get. Okay, so we are mindful of the opposite intensity. Another strategy is to really slow down our communication, which can be challenging because we might be kind of activated ourselves. We might be feeling angry, and when we are angry, we talk faster, we talk louder. But being mindful, I'm going to really slow down, speak slowly, and kind of like bring down the energy. Think out loud is one of my favorite strategies, because there's a lot of things that go on in our brains that children can't see. They don't know why we do what we do. They don't know why we make our choices. And so thinking out loud kind of lets children see what's going on in our brain. So one example is dinner is over and the mom or the dad might say, I would really like to watch television right now, but I'm going to be responsible and do the dishes first. Okay? And otherwise, what does the child see? My parent is doing the dishes. They don't know. They don't think, oh, my parent would really like to just be relaxing and watch TV, and my parent is being responsible to do this. But by saying that out loud, we're letting them know that process in our brain. It's also good for teaching children how to self-regulate and manage emotions, such as anger. Sometimes we even talk to parents about creating pretend situations that are making them angry, just to demonstrate their thought process. So for example, a parent might say, I'm so frustrated by how much traffic there is, but I'm going to take a deep breath and calm down. Okay? Or the person in front of me in the grocery store has 15 items and they're only allowed to have 10. I'm so frustrated, but I'm going to just kind of squeeze my hands and then I'm going to relax them and feel better. Okay? So whatever it is you're trying to teach the child, you find a way for yourself to demonstrate the emotion and the strategy you're going to choose. Because children are watching. And then also consider resetting an expectation. If a child is becoming frustrated due to what is being expected, it may be appropriate to kind of think about the expectation and see if there's any modification that needs to be made for that expectation. All right, so children are watching, right? Children are watching. They think about personal space. There's for people with both visual impairments and hearing loss, there is a hidden curriculum. There's unspoken rules. There are unspoken rules about how people interact with each other. So there's rules about appropriate ways to express frustration. There's rules about how we interact with each other. And for children who are deaf, many times these need to be explicitly taught as opposed to things that they kind of absorb by watching others. Okay. Now, say we are doing all of these things that we talked about, and we are stating our expectations possibly. We are providing choices. We've established respectful, responsible, and safe, but there's still misbehavior happening. What are some strategies that we can use? Okay. When we think about teaching a replacement behavior, we want to be able to teach, model, prompt, and reinforce the expected behavior. Okay. And so we've got a little picture of a magic wand here. And a lot of times people expect us to show up with the magic wand, right? And there's a lot of prevention that needs to happen. And this all falls under the umbrella of prevention. So what are some ways that we can teach these expected behaviors? Okay. When we have a child who's deaf or hard of hearing, again, they might not be able to pick things up through observing the environment, and we have to very explicitly teach what is the expectation. We also want to think about developing very clear and consistent routines. Okay? What is the way that we do things? What is the way that we expect things to be done? For the explicit instruction, it can be, we're just going to explain it. We might want to have a social story, which is something that would include maybe some pictures, maybe an explanation of what the behavior will look like, how it will impact other people, such as, you know, my mom will be happy, my dad will be happy, my teacher will be happy when I do this behavior. For some students, we do video modeling, which is making a video of the student demonstrating the expected behavior, and then they can watch themselves demonstrating the behavior. And that is something many students are enjoying these days. Okay. Modeling. Again, the video modeling can be part of this, but we're going to show the student the expected behavior. We're gonna maybe do some role play, show them what it looks like. And if possible, practice the expected behavior in the environment where you expect the behavior to happen. So if the behavior happens in a certain part of the house, or if it's happening in the car, during a time that's calm, you can go into the car and kind of pretend, act it out, and say, okay, if you become frustrated in the car, maybe right now the child is kicking the seat in front, right? And we're going to say, what is the expected behavior? Okay, the expected behavior is you're going to breathe, or you're going to make your hands look like the Incredible Hulk, like, arr, you know, squeeze your fist, arr, right? So maybe we're going to practice the Incredible Hulk hands, or maybe we're going to hold up our index finger and pretend it's a flower and smell the flower, and then we pretend it's a candle, we blow out the candle. Okay, so we're going to teach this new behavior. We're going to model it in practice in the car. Okay, and then we're going to prompt the behavior with consistent reminders before the situation occurs. So say this was our choice because when we get in the car, the child is kicking the seat in front. Before we get in the car, we will prompt and say, we're getting in the car. Remember, if you become frustrated in the car, what are your choices? Okay. And so then we're prompting ahead of time. And then we also want to reinforce, okay? So say the child becomes frustrated and angry and they're, you know, doing their breathing and they're doing the Hulk hands and going, grrr. We reinforce and say, good job, you used the strategies, you made good choices. And keep in mind, consequences happen after a behavior. Okay? We don't want to use reinforcement before the behavior. It's only after the behavior. Now, some people see this as a bribe, okay? And that's if we're having some sort of prize or something for good behavior. The difference is if before we go into an environment, we say, if you have appropriate behavior, you will earn a cookie at the end, okay? You are setting up that reinforcement. If you have not had the discussion ahead of time and the child is having a temper tantrum and you say, if you stop having your temper tantrum, I'll give you a cookie, then it's a bribe. It's not a reinforcement. So that's the distinction between those. All right, so we want to come up with replacement behaviors. We know what the behavior looks like right now, okay, and we want to be able to kind of define it. We want to think about how often it's happening, which is called the frequency, and how long it lasts, which is called the duration. We also want to look at the environment. Where is the behavior most likely to occur? Maybe it's triggered more depending on who is around, right? How often do we hear, oh, the behavior happens when dad's in the car, but it never happens when mom's in the car, right? So what's going on in the environment? Who are the people there? Are there any triggers that happen before the behavior? That's called the antecedent. And then what are the responses that the child receives after the behavior? These are the consequences. So sometimes we think of consequences as punishments, okay? But consequence just means what happens after. It just means what happens next. So if a child engages in a behavior that results in more attention from adults, then the consequence of the behavior is I received more attention. If after the behavior, I'm removed from the environment, then the consequence is I have escaped whatever was happening right there. And so a lot of times the purpose or function of a behavior is to obtain something or to avoid something. Okay? And so this is what we think about. We think about, why is this behavior happening? Is the child trying to get something, or is the child trying to avoid something? And some typical things that people try to obtain or avoid would be attention, work or responsibilities, tangible items, or some sort of sensory sensation. And when we think about reinforcements, we want to match the reinforcement to what they're trying to obtain or avoid. So if you have a child who's trying to obtain attention, and we try and reinforce good behavior with M&Ms, that's not a match for what the child is trying to obtain. And so we want to think about matching those. All right, so Sam runs away when it's time to take a bath. Okay, why is it happening? Well, we guess. We don't know for sure, but we guess. Perhaps he's trying to avoid taking a bath. What's the reason? We don't know. Is there a sensory reason he doesn't like the water? Does he not like how he feels cold when he steps out of the bath? Is it because as soon as bath time is over, he immediately goes to bed? We want to kind of figure this out, okay? Anna throws food on the floor during meals. Okay, well, what else is happening? Does her brother laugh every time she throws the food and then she gets attention from her brother? She likes making her brother laugh. Is she doing it to communicate that she doesn't like the food? Juan stomps his foot. Is he trying to obtain something or trying to avoid something? Right? Is he trying to avoid what he's being asked to do? Kendra throws herself to the floor at the store, right? What's the first thing we think of? She's trying to obtain mom buying the cereal that she wants, right? So we teach her a replacement behavior. And then we always try and have a positive one in here. Antoine brings his dishes to the sink. He is perhaps trying to obtain praise. He is trying to obtain the inner satisfaction of being responsible, right? Sometimes we obtain or avoid things that are not visible. So we want to be aware of that too, right? We're all motivated by different things. And sometimes it's the internal satisfaction of doing the right thing, which is valuable. So how do we come up with the replacement behavior? Okay, so we've already practiced describing the behavior we want to see. So we did that as a foundation. And we've talked about some of these examples. And the behavior needs to be something we can observe. Okay, so not wearing your shoes in the house it's a negative. We're not saying what we want. Leave your shoes at the door is something we can see, okay? Not hitting your brother is not a behavior, but keeping your hands to yourself is a behavior. So we want it something we can observe. Another strategy is to give children a script for what to think. Okay, sometimes we say, don't do that, don't think that, but they don't know what to think or do instead. And so if we give them a script, this is something they can practice thinking and saying. We can come up with specific language for specific situations. We can, for example, it's time to go to grandma's house. Perhaps instead of thinking, oh, I don't like to get in the car for a long car ride. We can teach them to think, I will ride in the car and then I will get to see my family, right? We teach them something to think. In terms of interactions with others, we teach this to children all the time. Someone gives you something, you say thank you. When you meet a new person, you say, hi, my name is whatever. But giving the specific language ahead of time can also help them have some predictability. Social narratives. This is social stories. We talked about this earlier. So one example would be Sam has safe behavior at home. Sam keeps his hand and feet to himself. He uses his words to tell how he feels. He takes deep breaths to calm down. Sam's parents are happy and Sam is happy when Sam is safe. Okay, so we've just kind of described everything we expect. We tell it as a story. There's an example here of doing it as a visual graphic. And then another one that has kind of a little bit of a story and a script. This is an example of a script. If I wait with a quiet mouth and a calm body, then I know I did a good job and my teachers and family will be proud of me. Okay, so we're giving that script, we're giving the language, helping them figure out what to think. Okay, we talked about modeling, so let's just touch back on these. The video modeling can either be having someone else demonstrate the behavior, or video self-modeling, have the child demonstrate the behavior. Okay, so you create that video of the child or someone else demonstrating the desired behavior, and the child has the opportunity to watch the video and imitate the behavior. We've talked about narrating your own behavior or thinking out loud. Okay, I'm frustrated right now. I would like to play, but it's time to work. I will do my work first and then play harder. It is hard to wait, but I will feel good when my work is finished. So you're modeling, you're thinking out loud, narrating your behavior, giving the child the script and the language to use. Prompting behavior. There's various levels of prompting. Okay, so at the highest level of need, which is the lowest one that we look at, you are giving full physical assistance. Your hands are, it's a hand over hand. You're actually helping the child to complete the task. Partial physical assistance would be just some sort of minimal physical assistance, you know, just kind of holding the elbow a little bit. Modeling is showing the child what you want him or her to do. And we go to gesture, where you're just kind of pointing or motioning what you want them to do. The direct verbal is stating the expectation. It's time to make your bed. Indirect is kind of when you, instead of saying to your child, say thank you, say what do you say? What do you say? Or, you know, just kind of making a hand motion of some sort, indicating that there's an expectation. And then that independent level where the child can perform a behavior with no prompts whatsoever. Reinforcements. We talked a little bit about the difference between a reinforcement and a bribe. We want to reinforce desired behaviors and ignore the undesired behaviors. So when is the right time to reinforce? We want to catch them being good, right? We want to have these expectations to be respectful, responsible, and safe, but also praise when we see it happening, okay? So when they are demonstrating the replacement behavior, we want to give that praise. Also, when they're not doing the inappropriate behavior, okay? Remember, this is that dirty underwear phenomenon, right? We want to be able to remember, even if we're seeing nothing, to reinforce that the negative behavior is not happening. And if there's somehow a time when they're in a situation where they're not able to do the inappropriate behavior. Okay, so the example here is their fingers are laced in their lap. They can't be hitting their brother. So we want to praise that and recognize it. All right, so how do we reinforce the behavior? We catch the child being good, positive praise, pat on the back, applause, thumbs up, a hug, A-OK sign. What are some things students can earn? They can earn activities, social time, time with friends, an activity with parents. There can be an actual menu of choices, perhaps some tangible things, a treasure box. Also, children like the opportunity to earn things for other people. So if the entire family gets a treat based on that child's behavior, there's that sense of, wow, I didn't earn something just for myself, but I earned something for my entire family. So that's a really good feeling. Let's talk a little bit about social emotional needs. A child's emotional well-being has an impact across the lifespan, and that ability to form successful relationships has an impact on success at school and success in work later on. So what are some key social skills that we can work on with our children? We want to encourage confidence, self-control, that ability to self-regulate, manage my behaviors, manage my emotions, having an awareness of impulse control, what's happening with my body. And we can reinforce that by noticing when it's being done correctly and giving praise, and also noticing if it's not being done correctly and provide replacement behaviors and scripts. The ability to show concern for a hurt or upset friend. The ability to work through conflict with peers, conflict resolution. We can demonstrate this. We can demonstrate appropriate ways to do this by even if we create an imaginary conflict, just so children can observe how we work through this. And cooperating. We can have group activities at home and model and demonstrate how we cooperate with each other. So if the family's playing a game, a card game, Uno, opportunities to play a game as a family teaches children how to take turns, how to accept if they are not the winner of the game. Lot of skills that we can build by taking family time to play a game together. There are many social skills resources. The ones that we see here are available in the library at Illinois Service Resource Center. Many of these are also in school as well. So PBIS is Positive Behavior Interventions and Supports. Many schools in Illinois are implementing this. And this is where we talked earlier about the positive behavior expectations: be respectful, be responsible, be safe. Second step is a social skills curriculum that's being taught in many schools and many of the deaf and hard of hearing programs in Illinois. Zones of regulation is also in many schools, and this includes teaching children 4 categories of emotions, and this is based on colors. The blue is for sad or tired. Green is for calm or ready to learn. Yellow is I'm kind of getting frustrated, and red is I'm very angry, I'm blowing up. And so instead, it's helpful for children to think about emotions in terms of categories, so that then we're able to say, what zone are you in? Are you feeling like you're in the yellow zone? And then we also teach them strategies they can use in each of the zones. And how full is your bucket? This is, there's several books and activities and worksheets around this book, teaching children that each of us carry around an invisible bucket inside of us. And we can either be a bucket filler or a bucket dipper. And we can fill the buckets of other people by being kind to them, or we can take away from the buckets of others by not being kind. Okay? So these are some materials that are available. Incidental learning means learning that takes place that is not taught directly. It's things we learn by overhearing other people, which is not something deaf and hard of hearing children are able to access. By just kind of checking out what's going on in the environment, we figure things out. Someone hasn't specifically said, this is what you have to do. However, children who are deaf or hard of hearing may need to be specifically taught some skills. They are not aware of tone of voice, for example. There might be some things related to etiquette that they miss. And this is what contributes to what we may observe, which is bluntness in deaf culture. So, for example, it is okay to walk up to someone and say, wow, you got taller. Wow, you grew, you got taller. And it's okay to say, wow, your hair is a different color. Used to be brown, now your hair is blonde. But what if we walk up to someone and say, wow, you gained a lot of weight. You got really wide. Why is that different? Why is it okay to say you got taller or you changed your hair color, but it's not okay to say you gained weight and got wider, right? There's things you need to understand in order to understand why it is not considered polite. We may have students who have missed some information or have received some misinformation. So an example of this is a student who came to school one day and said to his social worker, I am never kissing a girl. Okay. What? Why? I was watching TV last night and a boy kissed a girl and she slapped him in the face. Right? Right? So what is he thinking? I'm going to kiss a girl and she's going to slap me in my face? Well, how many things do you need to understand in order to understand why that happened? Okay. So those are some examples. We want to find opportunities for our children to develop relationships and friendships. So many benefits to that. How can we find opportunities? Chicago Hearing Society Youth has many activities that they sponsor. Chicago Park District, Guide by Your Side, and these are statewide opportunities. Hands and Voices, many opportunities statewide for children to connect with other students who are deaf and hard of hearing. And there are many deaf and hard of hearing specific camps and activities. We've talked about family relationships. What are some different ways to make your family strong and successful and pass these values on to the children? Homeschool connections. Children do better in school and in the future when parents have a strong connection with the school. If we're able to have consistency in expectations and reinforcements in both environments. So sometimes we see children behaving differently in these two environments. And that is because the expectations and reinforcements are different in both environments. So some ways to make sure that there's that communication going would be homeschool communication tools, information going back and forth, having that communication so there is that consistency in response and expectations. The Illinois Service Resource Center website has a template that you can download called All About Me, and you can just fill in some of these different things I like to do, things I'm good at, things that are hard for me, things that help me to be successful. And we can then, that's something as a parent that you can perhaps just share with your child's teacher at a meeting or on the first day, so that the teacher can get to know your child. Participating at school events, showing up, going to those parent-teacher conferences, accompanying on field trips, coming to class parties, reading to the class, coming to parent training events such as this one right now, or parent cafes through the Illinois Service Resource Center, providing those connections between home and school. Helping the child with homework, making sure there's structure and routine, making sure materials are available, being realistic with your expectations, having breaks, and using the language of responsibility. It's their job. And we talked about the prompt hierarchy, so that eventually they get to the level of independence. We've talked about think out loud several times. It's shown up several times because it's a very important tool. Thoughts are not visible, and it shows the children, here's what's going on in my brain. Thinking about routines and the ability to break them down into specific steps, okay? Sometimes something can be too overwhelming. It's very challenging to say to a child, oh, just go clean your room. But if we break it down into small steps, just pick up 5 things, it's more manageable. Many books and games and all kinds of information on behavior is available in the Illinois Service Resource Center library. We mail it to you with return postage included. We also have read kits through Choices for Parents on a variety of topics. You can request information with an email or a phone call or a fax. A few more resources from ISRC. We send out a monthly email. We have a Parent Connections newsletter. We have a variety of parent cafe events. We are always looking for parent facilitators. If anyone is interested, this would be to facilitate these parent cafe events. We're on Facebook if you're interested. Quick review, we want to state expectations positively, provide choices that are equal, provide praise by recognizing appropriate behavior, teach, model, prompt, and reinforce expected behaviors. And here is some contact information if anybody would like to follow up with any questions. And thank you very much, everybody, for your time and your participation this evening.
Thank you, Cheri. That was very informative. And both Cheri and I have worked together for many years, and I learned a few new things tonight. So it was a nice refresher for me. Thank you. Does anybody in the audience have any questions for Cheri at the moment? You could type them in the chat box, or if you go down to the bottom of your screen, you'll see a raise hand icon, and you can click on that. And I can turn on your microphone, and you can ask Cheri a question directly if you'd like. I am also putting Cheri's email in the chat box. As a reminder, all the services, or the majority of the services through ISRC are free at no cost to families. Cheri is available for you, and her team are available to pick her brain. You're struggling with a specific situation. feel free to reach out to her and ask for some ideas. And in case you missed it at the beginning, my name is Carla Gies, and I am the coordinator of the CHS Youth Connection Program. And we provide statewide support, just like Cheri and ISRC does, to families who are deaf, blind, or hard of hearing. And we provide resources, advocacy, information, services, support. So feel free to reach out to either one of us. I am putting my email in the chat box as well, if you'd like to reach out directly to either one of us. And I'm not seeing anything in the chat box or in any hands raised, so I'm going to assume that there are no questions right at this point. So I just want to say thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Thank you, Cheri, for joining us and sharing everything that you know about behavior strategies that you can use at home. I appreciate it. Have a wonderful night, everyone. Bye-bye.